You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. Today we're talking about organizing domestic workers and about the new fatherhood. And we're talking with a woman who has twice now managed creatively to circumvent countries outlawing abortion and to provide pregnancy termination services for women in those countries. Astonishing. But first, we need to look inside the headlines. Well, the midterm elections are over. And although we gave warning and went to court and tried to stop the voter suppression, there were notable irregularities in Georgia, Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, and elsewhere, and voter suppression effect all over the country. But we lost, and the Republican Party took the Senate, and the right wing of the Republican Party took the Senate. And we're all feeling a little battered these days. We hope that Obama will not just come out swinging, but stay swinging, but there's no necessary guarantee of that. It's not just us that are feeling battered. I think the country is feeling battered. It's like a battered woman. It entered into this relationship as a vision of love and romance, although there were the signs from the beginning, the massacres and appropriation of land of Native Americans, the poisonous contract of slavery, the bride ships. And now we're in a situation where the battery has surfaced and is old, in fact. We have old scars as well as new ones that run fresh blood, like Ferguson and the other places where killings of black community members are rampant. We're still engaged in the basic fight for human right of reproductive freedom and the fight for equal pay and minimum wage and benefits and the fight for health care, although we have taken a big step forward, imperfect as it is. The right for parental leave, the right for marriage equality, and against don't ask, don't tell. That one was a win. And the fight for disability rights and for dignified aging and compassionate dying, and the fight for education and against guns, the fight for art and artists' rights and children's rights, and so much more. And the irony and the hope resides in the fact that on all of these, the majority of the population of the country is with us. It's with us. Poll after poll shows that. So I'm going to repeat something that you've heard me say in other versions before. It's something that a number of organizers have used, Gloria among them, and it's worth repeating. The most dangerous time for a battered woman is when she finally decides to leave. That's when he rises up in full fury. That's when he kills if he can. That's when his entitlement and sense of privilege and supremacy is most threatened. Well, the country is leaving them, leaving the 36% of the population who are white and male and feel the need to be entitled. We have over 40 years and before a tradition of building the escape route for the battered country. We did elect a black progressive president. We will elect a woman president. More of us speak Spanish every day as well as English. It is going to be a bilingual country. We are becoming less of a white majority country. In every way, we are leaving them. The future is leaving them. The young people are leaving them. So keep that in mind as you feel battered. And hang on. Get pissed off instead of depressed. Get ready. Get angry. Get invigorated. Get to work. And now for our first guest. Ai-jen Poo began her work in organizing in 1996 with the Women Workers Project at the Committee Against Anti-Asian Violence. She co-founded Domestic Workers United in 2000 and served as lead organizer until 2009 and joined the National Domestic Workers Alliance as executive director in 2010. She's also co-director of Caring Across Generations and the recent recipient of a MacArthur Award, nicknamed the Genius Award. Ai-jen, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, congratulations on winning the MacArthur Award. It's well deserved.
Thank you. Well, I think it's a reflection of all the wonderful women who are part of the movement and have been supporting us and working in partnership with us. So I consider it a reflection of how inspiring women's leadership can be.
Well, that's a wonderful way to put it, and I couldn't agree more. I have to thank you also because, in large part, because of you and your leadership. In 2010, I'm a New Yorker, and in 2010, New York enacted the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, which entitles workers to overtime pay and 1 day of rest a week and protection from discrimination and 3 days paid leave per year. And you fought a 7-year campaign to get that passed, didn't you?
That's right. And it was really won over the course of those 7 years by thousands of domestic workers who marched and took days off from work without pay to travel to Albany to tell their stories. And it was really a movement effort. And New York had the courage and the foresight to be the first state in the country to enact such legislation. And 4 years later, three other states have followed. So we appreciate the bravery of the women and of New York State for stepping out in that way.
Well, I thank you for your work, too, because you were the organizer of the Domestic Workers United group from 2000 to 2009, and you were the one who spent countless hours organizing largely isolated women and bringing them together to accomplish that. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but there's a long history of attempts on this back in the 70s. When I was with Ms. Magazine, we published Josephine Hewitt's Contract for Domestic Workers.
Yes.
And around that same time, and maybe a little later, maybe in the early 80s, Gloria and I, Steinem and I, were part of a group of women working with Carolyn Reed, who was a wonderful organizer to try and unionize domestic workers. And all this time later, it still hasn't happened, but you have happened, and that's a great leap forward.
It's true. We really do see ourselves as part of a long history of courageous women who've been working to make this work that goes into caring for families and homes visible and recognized for its worth in our economy. And even starting from 1881, when the first washerwomen strike happened in Atlanta, through to Dorothy Bolden in 74 and Carolyn Reed's efforts. I think over many generations, women have worked hard to bring visibility and dignity and respect to this work, and we know that we stand on the shoulders of all of those women and look forward to carrying that legacy forward.
But it's so exciting to actually see something happen. Not enough, enormous amounts of work yet to be done, but to see movement is just incredible. You were instrumental also. Your fingerprints are on all the progressive aspects of this. When the Department of Labor recently decided to include caregivers for the disabled and the elderly in federal minimum wage and in overtime protection. That's a huge step.
Oh, that is a huge step. That is going to bring 1.8 million home care workers and caregivers under basic minimum wage and overtime protections that other workers have taken for granted for the last 75 years. So that's a huge step forward, but we are actually still facing, with all of these step forwards, the organizing and the support for the movement is so important, because ultimately we have to not only implement but build upon this progress. And with the Department of Labor regulations, we now have to really work with states to make sure that they're prepared for the implementation and they know what's coming, and really make sure that it goes forward. And we've still got 46 states that have not yet enacted legislation for domestic workers' rights, and just so much more to do. So I would say that we're in a wonderful moment of opportunity, and it's the responsibility of all of us who care about these issues to take it forward.
It is. And say a little bit about what, this is a very activist audience of this radio program. So say a little bit about what the kinds of things that people can do, and also be sure and give the website.
Absolutely. Well, we as the domestic workers movement are continuing to work in states to not only implement the home care regulatory change, but also to pass domestic workers legislation. And in 2015, we're really looking for supporters in New Jersey and Connecticut and Illinois as states where we're really going to try to move this forward next year. And we're building a broader movement called Caring Across Generations, and that's www.caringacross.org, to really bring together all of the families who are struggling to meet the needs of their families as the nation ages and people reach retirement age and live longer than ever, and more people are diagnosed with Alzheimer's. The need for family care supports for families across generations is simply exploding, and we need a strong workforce to support that. So the Caring Across Generations movement is about bringing together seniors and people with disabilities and families with the workforce that cares for them to really say we need 21st century public policy that meets all of our needs, accounts for the care that our families need, makes care affordable and accessible for families, while making sure that each of these care jobs is a job that you can take pride in and also take care of your own family. So creating a win-win policy future on using care as a model.
That's absolutely brilliant. I mean, if the funny thing is that these are the real values this country purports to have.
That's right.
Caring about families, caring about children, yet children go to bed hungry in this country. Caring about education, yet our education system is in deep crisis. Caring about, the work that is done, the caregiving work, is the lifeblood of supposedly our values. But I think it's because it's women largely who do it. It has been held in, not quite contempt, but just it's invisible. It was taken for granted. Right. It's taken for granted. That's what women do. That's right. That's what women do.
It's assumed that women will do it unpaid, or oftentimes women of color will do it for very, very low pay.
Right.
And that has never been an ethical or healthy framework to have. But we are entering a moment with more and more women in the workforce, and yet still families have needs. And with the aging of America, where the boomers are reaching retirement age at a rate of 10,000 people per day,
wow.
It is simply untenable.
Yep.
Simply untenable for us to not have a new framework and system for caregiving in this country.
But it's so tactically so smart to also frame it in terms of enlightened self-interest, because if all those baby boomers realize there won't be anybody to care for them, or there won't be anybody to care for them who takes pride in the job and has it as a decent job,
that's right.
Then suddenly their well-being is at stake. It's in their self-interest for this to be a good job, a job with dignity, a job that's well paid, a job that has benefits, all of the basics. It's a job, right. But to make them realize they have been part of the problem, but now they can be part of the solution is, I think, brilliant.
Each and every one of us is connected by the need for and reliance on caregiving. And the
Yes.
more we make that visible and an organizing principle in our society, I really do think it is one of those unique. A lot of people talk about lift all boats, but I do think that more care is only helpful for all of us. And when we think about how to care for the least visible among us, it really does strengthen the whole economy and framework for our society.
Of course.
It's not even about strategy and tactics. It's really a question of what are the set of values that will shape our future as a nation.
Exactly. Well, this is something everybody should be involved in. The website again is
www.caringacross.org, and you can find out more about domestic workers advocacy around the country at domesticworkers.org. And we really do hope that you'll sign up and get involved. We believe that there is a caring majority in this country, and that all of you who are listening right now are a part of it. And we just need to really get activated and have the voice that we know that we need in order to create the change that we need.
Oh, Aijen, you are just terrific. Congratulations again, and thank you for being with us today on Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you, and thanks for providing a voice for all of us women out there who are really going to change the world.
You
Thank
bet. You bet. We have to take a break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I'll be back in just a moment with Suzanne Braun Levine as we examine, can men have it all in the new fatherhood?
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. Suzanne Braun Levine, returning to this program, is a writer, editor, and nationally recognized authority on women and families. She was the first editor of Ms. Magazine and the first woman editor of the Columbia Journalism Review. And in her recent work, she has celebrated the new stage of life, women in second adulthood, and reports on ongoing changes in women's lives. Her new ebook, Can Men Have It All? What the Daddy Track Means for Women, published by She Books, examines the changing role of fatherhood and the state of work-life balance for modern couples, a subject she introduced in her pioneering book, Father Courage, What Happens When Men Put Family First. And that's what we're discussing today. Suzanne, welcome back to the program.
I'm so happy to be here, Robin.
Well, I thought of you because lately there's been a fair amount of press on stay-at-home dads, which is encouraging. That in the United States there's a growing number of fathers. It's now up 2 million in 2012 alone. So that's a good sign. And then also there was another piece about how fathers are experiencing empty nest syndrome more acutely than ever before. And I thought, well, years ago you wrote Father Courage, What Happens When Men Put Family First. You were ahead of your time, obviously. But your new book, which is an ebook, wittily called Can Men Have It All? I love it because for years they've been asking that about women, and all we were saying is, can women have access, please, to it all? But so clearly you know what's going on with men and fatherhood, and is this a trend, and how will it affect the workplace, and bring us up to speed?
Well, it certainly is a trend, and an enviable trend when you see how much progress men have made from the workplace back into the family. You almost envy, from a woman's point of view, how short the time frame has been. But there are 2.2 million men staying at home. That's double what it was in the 80s.
Wow.
And aside from those who are home from illness or unemployment, a large number of them are staying home with their children out of choice. And this is part of a general experience that men want to be parents now. When I first wrote Father Courage, I interviewed men who were bucking the tide to stay home.
Right.
I talked to one man who said he used to park his car in the far corner of the parking lot at his place of work so that he could sneak out at 5 o'clock to go to his kids' games.
Wow.
I met another man who said that when he took his infant daughter to the playground during the day, during the week, the women there called the cops because they thought maybe he had kidnapped her.
Oh, my God.
So from that to a point when men are longing to stay home, when the Families and Work Institute is reporting that they are feeling more stress even than women between family and work, we really are at a tipping point. And although it's always a mixed issue, this families issue, fathers are doing twice as much housework as they used to.
Yay.
But that means they're doing 1/3 of the chores.
Yeah. Oh, well. Nothing like perspective.
They're spending triple the time they used to with their kids.
Oh, yay.
From 2.5 hours to 7.3 hours.
7.3. Wow.
But women are spending more time with their kids than they did in the 60s. Now, whether this is efficiency, guilt, overcompensating, I don't know what. But while women's lives have been made somewhat more supported by their partners, it's still not equal. And so this, for women, is kind of a conundrum. You're grateful, but you're not too grateful.
Right.
You're happy that you've got a partner who is supportive, but you'd like to have a partner who would share.
Yep. I guess that kind of thing where, I remember when a man would dry a dish, everybody would, fall over sideways and talk about how advanced and progressive he was, when actually he was doing what he should have been doing all along. In a sense, it's like that.
Right. But in reality, he is now doing it.
Yes. And that's good. It's good.
And
it's a
that's
good thing.
good. And can men have it all? I do talk a little about this tension between the parents about what is helping and what is sharing. And the resentment that women have that men aren't sharing, and the resentment that men have that women are bossing them around and not letting them do it their way. So there is a lot of internal adjustment yet to make. But there's also an external situation that I think in terms of women's media is important to take a look at. A Pew study showed that while almost half of men would prefer to stay home with their kids if they had the choice.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's amazing. Yet when the public was questioned on whether kids are better off with the mother at home or the father at home, 51% said with the mother and only 8% said with the father.
Now that's contradictory.
So the pressure, that guy in the park and the guy who parked in the far end of the parking lot,
right,
is still there. And the pressure from men on other men, is still there.
So there's a punishment for the daddy track, the way the way there has been for the mommy track.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Well, it's nice that they're leveling off there, but it still shows a real contempt for the family and for children, and in this supposed children-loving nation, it shows where our values really are and are not, doesn't it?
Exactly. But luckily, these men who are fathers now were raised by us.
Aha!
And they have the expectation of being equal parents, and I get definite sense that they are going to fight for it. Even though we have a system where it's every family for itself.
Yeah.
And we can't go over this too often. We are the only industrial country that has no paid family leave, no child care, no preschool, no tax breaks for caregivers.
Tell it, sister.
All of these are necessary prerequisites to a thriving and egalitarian family life.
Yes, they are.
So that's a political agenda.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's also a less obvious agenda, which is that as these men come along, they are going to join us in trying to change the workplace, to make the workplace more hospitable,
of course,
to make it more flexible, to make the society more recognize that family life has to go on in the middle, not around the edges.
Right. That's a whole new constituency then.
And I think they are being joined by another constituency which is equally maligned, which is older folks.
Mm-hmm.
I belong to an organization called Encore.org that is working on this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And people over 50 or 60 are trying to hang on to contributing and functioning and working in the society
Right.
that is ageist and rejecting.
Yep.
So it seems to me that if we old folk and those young parents all work together, we could transform the workplace and make it a place that was responsive to the way people live.
This is such a civilized notion. It really, and it always gets me because it's such common sense that I fall into the trap of thinking, well, this makes perfect obvious sense. Surely they'll see this, and then I'm always just hornswoggled when they don't. But I think that growing constituency is a very sanguine notion. It makes me very hopeful, and also the children growing up with sharing parents. If there are if it is a two-parent home, the children who see men in those roles, if it's a one-parent home and it's a stay-at-home, it's a dad, are going to be very different children too. So it gets better each rung of the ladder, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, the book is called, it's an ebook, and it's called Can Men Have It All? And it's fascinating. And Suzanne is our expert on workplace and family and fathers and children and all sorts of good things, and also women friends. So check out her other books as well. Thank you so much for being with us and coming back. You're a recidivist, and I love it.
Thank you, Robin.
And now it's time for the Surrealism Corner. Writing in the Examiner, reporter Mary Chastain took note of the reaction by the forces of ISIL to the Kurdish women fighters, who are quite fierce. She writes, "Their accomplishments as warriors aside, it is their gender the jihadists fear the most. They believe that if they die in jihad, they will be rewarded with 72 virgins in heaven. However, if a woman kills them, the men are denied their virgins." Also echoing similar conclusions was Representative Ed Royce. He's a Republican from California who chairs the House International Relations Committee. And he said, "These ISIL soldiers apparently believed that if they were killed in battle, they went to paradise as long as they were killed by a man. And these female soldiers were communicating their satisfaction with the fact that had they taken the fight to ISIL and had stopped the advance, they turned back the advance, they slayed a number of these fighters, the fighters would then run away." So, well, the answer, I think, listener, is that we just send hundreds of thousands of women dressed as if they were fighters into the military. This would satisfy the militarists and satisfy the peace activists, because the women would not be doing any killing. They would just be there, and the men would be absolutely appalled and run away. We could call them the Medusa brigades, because upon looking on their faces, the men would turn to stone. That's the Surrealism Corner for the day.
Time for another quick break. We're at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I'll return in just a moment with Rebecca Gomperts, who has managed twice to circumvent national boundaries and bring women in need of terminating an unwanted pregnancy real abortion services.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back. Rebecca Gomperts is a Dutch general practice physician and activist. She discovered that in a Dutch-registered ship governed by Dutch law, she could sail into the harbor of a country where abortion was totally illegal, take women on board, bring them into international waters, give them the pills at sea, and send them home to miscarry. She launched this project, called Women on Waves, in June of 2001, and it was a game changer. Some years later, she realized that there was an easier way than showing up in a port. She didn't need a ship. She just needed the internet. And now there's Women on Web. Here's Rebecca Gomperts, who's making history for women twice. Welcome, Rebecca, to Women's Media Center Live. It's an honor to have you on the program.
Thank you so much, Mom, for inviting me.
Well, I've been a fan of yours for years. Women on Waves, which of course was your brilliant scheme. Now it's about 15 years old, I guess. Medical abortions, using the pill, and now taking advantage of the technology. In the last few years, you've moved it to the web, and it's Women on Web, and this is just, single-handedly with the other women you work with, obviously. You have saved hundreds of thousands of lives, because almost 40% of the world's population lives in countries, primarily Latin America, Africa, Asia, and the Persian Gulf, where abortion is either banned or severely restricted. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Well, talk about Women on Web and how it got started.
Well, what happened is that as a result from the ships campaigns, especially after Ireland and Poland, we started getting a lot of emails from women who asked, when is your ship going to be here? I need help. Mm-hmm. And of course we didn't have a ship. We rented a ship, we did a campaign once in a while, and it is not a sustainable solution for women. So we thought, well, it's only a pill. It must be able to send it through mail. But as with Women on Waves, we only want to do things that are legal, mm-hmm. Because you make yourself and the people around you very vulnerable when you break the law. So I've spent half a year, searching all the countries around the world, what would be the best setup, and then finally we had the puzzle together. So Women on Web is set up in several countries and it works together. And at that time, it was extremely controversial. I remember that when I talked with other doctors and abortion rights activists about these plans, they all thought that what I would do was, putting women in danger. You couldn't do this. How could you give women, scented medicines without seeing them? And I think now, 9 years later, we have published a lot of scientific research about the outcomes of the abortions in scientific magazines that are well respected, and there's now, and the aim of that was to mainstream this idea that women can do the abortion themselves.
Even the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists concluded that women can safely and effectively use telemedicine, which this is in a sense, to have a medical abortion, including
Yes.
taking the pill at home. So
So I'm really happy that with all the research that has been done, but also by American organizations like Genuity, and there's been a lot of other organizations that have worked really hard to show that a medical abortion can be done safely by a woman herself. Of course, there is limitations on telemedicine, and that is when there's a problem. First of all, you cannot judge the situation of the woman over a distance, so she will always be dependent also on local available health care. But, that is the case with anything that you do. Also, normal abortions, you always depend on.
Indeed.
When a woman travels 400 or 200 miles to go to a clinic and has a surgical abortion and she goes back, she can also have a complication and she will also need local available care.
Precisely.
If there is a problem. So there is really no difference there. And I really think that is a huge advantage that we have made. And that can really, really change women's realities. And it's really a revolution for women, that they can really take this in their own hands.
It is revolutionary. It is.
Also, the anti-abortion rights groups recognize this, and there's a lot of effort to try to restrict access to the medication worldwide. So that is really something that will be the battle of the future.
Yes.
How do we make sure that these medicines stay available and become more available, because they're still not available enough? They should be available, I believe, in any pharmacy or even over the counter.
Well, of course. I mean, the World Health Organization estimated, I think in 2008, that over 21 million unsafe abortions take place pretty much every year, leading to almost 50,000 deaths. So WHO put the pill, mifepristone and misoprostol, on its essential medicines list. That tells us, the World Health Organization is hardly a rampaging feminist organization. They consider these.
It's not.
No, of course not. But they consider this essential medicine, and yet the women can't get it.
Yeah, and again, that will be the next big battle for women, to really get it in our hands. But again, we've had the same situation with contraceptives. The same situation with the morning after pill when it was just there.
Right.
So I believe it's only a matter of years that it will become, I hope, more available.
Well, Women on Web receives about 2,000 queries a month from women asking for help.
Yes.
For help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you do not serve the United States, I understand, and I understand why. But tell our listeners why.
Yes, no, we don't. What we do is because we get a lot of requests from women from the United States, because we are aware of the fact that there is a lot of places where there's no available abortion care. And actually, we just got an email from a doctor who said, please reconsider this policy, because really I've seen, and it was a pediatrician, so it was somebody who saw a lot of teenagers who really didn't have the possibility to do it. And as we saw also recently, a woman has been put in jail for 18 months because she helped her daughter get the pills. I mean,
it's barbaric.
This doesn't happen anywhere in the world.
No, it's barbaric.
It's more barbaric than happens anywhere in the world.
You're
even the countries where there's the most restrictive abortion law, that does not happen.
And your original position was taken because you don't serve women in countries where it's legal. But it's beginning to be legal.
It's not legal. We say where it's available. Available and legal are not always like we know in the U.S. Yes, but I think for us the reason also, I mean, the U.S. is a country of huge resources.
Yep.
And we think that there's so many very strong abortion rights organizations. And what I believe they should do, and there's plenty of other websites that actually do provide medical abortion to women in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's just that they have to make sure that they know which of the websites are reliable, and they should just order some of these websites and start promoting these.
Yeah, that's the difference, because
I mean,
you are known for being reliable. You're a medical doctor, and Women on Waves and now Women on Web has such a good reputation. That's the difference, because on the web in general, you don't know, even though the pills are available, you don't know who.
But I agree, but this is something that you can work out.
Yes, you
can figure out who is, and then you can contact the organizations that are reliable, because a lot of these websites are kind of online pharmacies. They're in there for the money. They also have something to gain from having a relationship with organizations in the U.S. and making sure that that they can provide their product, and so I think that if any effort is being made, that should be it. Our work is really focusing on those countries where it's really hardest to get, and we don't want to jeopardize our other work for all the other women around the world.
Completely understandable.
For a country where there are so many resources available,
yes,
and where we believe that the women's organizations and the health organizations in the U.S. are perfectly capable of solving this problem themselves.
Yes, no, that's a very understandable policy. You're focusing on countries where it's not available, and also on countries with high rates of maternal mortality, like Kenya and Tanzania and Nepal and Cambodia and South Africa, India,
but I have to say, I don't see this anymore as a harm reduction strategy, which is how it started. Do less harm,
right?
Because it's the safest method when you are in a country where there are only unsafe methods. I think actually this should also be an option for women where there is access to safe abortion services, because women want to access it this way. There's no reason why somebody should go to a bookstore to buy a book and cannot order it online. And I think that is you want to give people a choice. You want to give people the freedom to decide where they want to and how they want to obtain their care. And internet is so much part of our lives now.
Well, you have done this and taken advantage of the technology in such a careful way, such a principled way, and such a legal way, ironically, but also very bravely, because they didn't, even though you were obeying the letter of the law, they didn't always think that was the case, the various countries. I thank you, Rebecca, really from the bottom of my heart, for what you have done and are doing for women. This is an amazement, and I'm so glad that Women on Web is now getting more of the attention that it's deserved for the past 8 years. Bravissima.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, also, I must say there's a lot of other organizations now that are doing similar initiatives. So I think we will see a lot of online abortion services popping up in the next 5 years, because it's now mainstreamed. It's now acceptable. Mm-hmm. It's now being shown. I mean, we did the hard part, and now other people can bear the fruits.
Well, you were out there before it was acceptable. So I thank you. There's a saying, an indigenous saying, that the first swimmer on the ice gets the most cut, the second finds the ice broken, and the third finds it gone. And that's what you have done. That's beautiful. That's what you have done.
That's very beautiful. That's a beautiful saying. But again, I have to say, there's so many organizations in the U.S. whose research has been so important and so instrumental to show the safety of medical abortion. And I need to also mention Genuity in that. And so, and of course, there's a lot of organizations, other doctors around the world. Karolinska Institute has been doing a lot of research, and I think scientific research is extremely important to show that actually women can do it by themselves.
Of course, but none of that negates what you have done. And I again thank you for it, and I thank you for being with us today. And keep up the remarkable work. I know you will.
Thank you so much for your kind words and for the interview, and it's been a pleasure.
Now, how about some news you can use? Some of the establishments on this list of 13, I'm sure you wouldn't be caught dead in anyway, but some of them are surprises, so I'm just going to sort of rapidly go through. Hobby Lobby, well, we know about Hobby Lobby, don't we? They took the case against women's health care all the way to the Supreme Court, so we're not dealing with Hobby Lobby, certainly not buying from them. 2, Hooters, that's another one that we know about for years already, discrimination against women, and employing women, but insisting that they look as if they were, I don't know what, falling out of their bodices. 3, Curves International, which is a women-only gym franchise that's made a fortune off women and yet has anti-woman policies and lobbies Congress to unashamedly take up the cause of preborn children in the name of Jesus Christ on its website. 4, Exxon. Big Oil, in this case, has a long history of fighting against LGBT rights, and the Human Rights Campaign gave them a score of below 0. Here's a possible surprise. American Apparel. The clothing chain first gained notoriety for its former CEO's sexist behavior, Dove Charmy, who the board ousted last June. But the highly sexualized, very young women in the ads have given way to now sexual harassment lawsuits. Next, Miller Coors. Sorry, beer lovers, but if you care about women's rights, you better put down that Blue Moon, Coors Light, Keystone Ice, Miller, Killian's, or Foster's, no good. The company itself donated to a personhood amendment and thinks that they're visionary for doing so. Here, however, is another surprise. Urban Outfitters, which I know a lot of young, hip, and political people patronize. But they have earned a reputation as being a company bad for women and being homophobic. The company doesn't seem to mind severe underrepresentation of women when it comes to leadership positions also. Next, Cracker Barrel, which has been frustrating people for some decades with its overtly racist and anti-gay practices. Then there's Walmart. That's no big surprise. We know all about Walmart by now. And then there's Eden Foods. Now, that's a surprise and sad because it's healthy and all that, but they sued the Obama administration, please to remember, over covering contraception as per the Affordable Care Act's mandate. Next, another surprise, Abercrombie & Fitch. The CEO and former chair of Abercrombie & Fitch, Mike Jeffries, has a history of fat-shaming young women. According to Business Insider, the retailer had a long-time policy that prohibited stocking extra-large or extra-extra-large sizes in women's clothing because they don't want overweight women wearing their brand. There you go. Then Waffle House, which is one way that you gain the weight that Abercrombie & Fitch doesn't want you to have. But Waffle House was accused, their CEO was accused of demanding sexual acts from a female employee. It's not the first time, nor unfortunately looks like it's not like the last. Then Carl's Jr., the burger chain, who has no problem apparently selling food with sex, was founded by vehemently anti-choice, anti-gay crusader Carl Karcher. So those are some baddies to stay away from and pass it along to your friends, including the new surprises. We have to take one more quick break here at Women's Media Center Live, where I remain tediously, consistently, well, not so tediously, I hope, Robin Morgan. We'll be back in just a moment, in time for some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again, in time for some fighting words. Here's a headline. Iran hangs woman for killing alleged rapist. Yes, in late October, over the objections of the United Nations and international human rights groups who said that the evidence was insufficient, Iran hanged a woman at dawn, convicted her of murdering a man she said had been trying to rape her. Rehana Jabari was her name, and she had apparently, according to their courts, plotted to kill Morteza Abdolali Sarbandi, a former intelligence agent. Now, his family could have saved her life by accepting blood money under the traditions of Iran, but they refused to do so because they were so outraged that she had accused him of attempting rape. That was one headline. Another headline was Nigeria, the first victims of the abductions tell their story. They haven't all been released. In fact, most are still in captivity. But women and girls abducted by the Islamist group Boko Haram have come out to some degree and told some of their stories, that they were forced to marry, to convert, to endure physical and psychological abuse, to endure forced labor, and mass rapes in captivity. Boko Haram has abducted more than 500 women and girls since 2009 and intensified the abductions since May of 2013. The statements of the girls made clear that the Nigerian government has failed to adequately protect women and girls from a myriad of abuses, to provide them with effective support or mental health or medical care after captivity, to ensure safe access to schools, or to investigate and prosecute those responsible for the abuses. The problem is that Boko Haram continues to do this with impunity. Even when they release them, which is rare, they just abduct more girls. In fact, it has become so normalized that no action can be taken, or so the government explains. And then here's a third headline. Norway closes gender gap as women military draft starts. Norway, who has a world leader status when it comes to women in the workforce, at the fourth highest female participation rate at 76.1%, after only Iceland, Sweden, and Switzerland. Norway had a very low presence of women in the military. So they decided to close the gap and legislate that a new law requires women between the ages of 19 and 44 to join men in 19 months of mandatory military duty. It will apply to women born in Norway from 1997 onwards, with the first service in mid-2016. And my first reaction to this was negative. I don't approve of the militaries of the world. I don't approve of the draft. And then the other two headlines worked their poisonous magic. And you know, now I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. And that's it for today. Join us next week to hear from some wonderful guests. Remember that my books, The Demon Lover, The Roots of Terrorism, and The Anatomy of Freedom, Feminism in 4 Dimensions, are now available in ebooks. The former, The Demon Lover, right now. The latter, The Anatomy of Freedom, for pre-order, both at all online booksellers in all tablet and e-reader formats. Remember especially to visit us at WMCLive.com for the archive of all our previous episodes, and be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook, Twitter, and at iTunes worldwide, where you can stream, download, and subscribe to the show's podcast.
Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton, Senior Producer, Crystal Williams Chancellor, and our founding sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us, and don't forget to join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.